On May the 8th, 1373, somewhere in England, a woman whose name we don't know lay grievously ill, presumed to be dying. As she was receiving the last rites, she stared at the crucifix which the priest held before her eyes and slipped into a coma. This lasted for 3 days, during which she experienced a series of revelations concerning the nature of God and Christ, and from which she miraculously recovered. The nature of what she experienced seems to have been deeply troubling for her, as a result of which she became an anchoress, voluntarily enclosed in a tiny cell attached to a small church in Norwich, St Julian's, hence the name by which we know her today. This hitherto ordinary woman was about to embark on the most extraordinary spiritual journey into the mysteries of God, and during her long life in her cell, she was able to reconcile the conflicting messages received during her coma with her Christian faith. Either Julian wrote herself or had someone write on her behalf an account of her experience, which is virtually the only documentation we have relating to the existence of this woman. I first encountered Julian 20 years ago and was immediately fascinated by her story. Much of what she saw in her showings created a dilemma for her, though, because it seemed to be at odds with church teaching. Her text is littered with references to this, and she tells us in graphic detail how she questioned God himself, because it must have seemed to her that she was going quite mad if what she was being shown were indeed true. But God quietly reassured her that she was not mad, and that she must trust in what she had seen. I suspect that it is for this reason that she withdrew to her cell. Had she openly declared the details of her showings, then she would have found herself in trouble with the church. But she has a famous predecessor, of course. Jesus and Julian were not strangers to controversy, and I can relate to this. Hundreds of years later, we live in a world of free speech and action, but we still judge and are judged by others, misunderstand and are misunderstood. So life is always a journey, and I have found Julian's example to be immensely helpful in navigating a course through troubled times. She knew that often the answers appear when we stop asking the questions, as she tells us in chapter 86. And 15 years after and more, he was answered in ghostly understanding, saying thus: Wouldst thou weten the Lord's meaning in this thing? Wait it wele, love was his meaning. Who showed it they? Love. What showed it he they? Love. Wherefore showed it he? For love. 15 years ago, I composed a suite of music to accompany some lines from Julian's text, and what you're listening to is called a Sure of Reina. In chapter 7, Julian describes the blood falling from Christ's face, likening these to drops of water that fall from the eaves of a roof after a great shower of rain. Simple yet profound, grisly yet beautifully comforting to this devout Christian woman who found herself in the intimate presence of her Saviour.